Let's just watch American Dad.
That's what I've been doing.
Hey, instead of a show, let's watch American Dad.
We need that playback now for later. Not camera 4 or whatever.
That's pretty good.
And then we'll go into camera 3.
Why do you build me up?
Start with the bird.
Hey, we could go that. We could do that one.
Okay, 10 seconds.
1,
Build me up.
6, 5, 4, 3,
I'm right on playback, so just play that right
One.
start.
intro.
Alright, play intro. Switch to camera 3.
Welcome to Varsity Sports Fusion. This week we will be talking about baseball for all 30 minutes. It's a special edition of the NBA playoffs. No, we're not doing that.
His mic's not on.
We're not doing that. First
His
off,
mic's not on.
biggest news of the week probably Donald Sterling, the Clippers owner, banned for life by Adam Silver.
Is it like a 10
Actual one sucks.
Yes, he cannot.
Any NBA games can't be on any of the sides for the Clippers.
No, he can't, and he cannot visit practice facilities. He was also fined
What's that glare?
$2.5 million, which is the maximum. What are you guys' opinions?
I personally think that it was just right. I think it came down to what power he had. I think he should have used the full extent of his power on Donald Sterling. Mostly because it had such a big effect on the organization and therefore the league in general. Because they're part of the NBA, and if one team goes down the tube like that, it affects the entire league.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Adam Silver did the right thing, because if he said, Donald Sterling is suspended for this certain amount of time, I think all players in the NBA would still just be outraged. They'd still boycott. And I don't know if you guys heard, but on the night that Adam Silver gave his press conference, the players were thinking about boycotting all those NBA playoff games, but they thought that the penalty was just right.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think, Kenny?
I agree. I think Adam Silver did the right thing by being as strict as he was. I think that's what needed to happen, both for the players in the league and like the fans, around the world. But to be fair, I mean, the comments that he made, I think were like super out of line and should not, I don't think he should have those views. But regardless, I still think it's a little unfair what happened to him, because if he would have said those things in a public setting, like at a press conference or on TV, it would have been another story. But the fact that he was recorded, it was private between two people, and it was recorded, which he had no intention of letting anyone else hear. I still think that's a little bit unfair, even though I totally disagree, with like everything that he said. I still think that's just a little bit breach of privacy.
But now that information is out, so now it doesn't matter how the information got out, but now the players in that organization know that he's racist.
And you're not going to want to play. You're not going to want to play.
Playing, and Doc Rivers doesn't even
want to coach there.
I personally feel like it was too harsh, but I also feel like it had to be done. You had to remove him, or else the league. No one would ever want to go play for the Clippers again.
Exactly. It would mess the Clippers up, and I think being as Adam Silver being so young in his position, he hasn't been there for as long as everybody else has, and I think that was like monumental
for him
to do it. To show the commissioner that we're not going to take any more nonsense, and like what owner Mark Cuban said, with this situation, it could start a slippery slope with other stuff coming out about other owners and stuff. Players could frame or find dirt on owners if they don't like them and get them out. So I think that him stepping up and showing that we're not going to take any of this, there's no way out of, if you do this, there's nowhere for you to be in the NBA, I think was important for him.
Especially when over 70% of all, anything in the NBA is African American.
Yes.
Letting a guy just get off with just a little suspension, that's just crazy.
Yeah, he had to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Moving on, that's probably the 90% of the news this week in the NBA, which is really tragic because of how great these playoffs have been.
Yeah.
But also, we'll move on
to happen right now.
to some other news. Lakers coach Mike D'Antoni decided to resign. This was everybody basically assumed this was going to happen.
Yeah.
The Lakers have been in a free fall for the past couple of years.
It was their worst season in
franchise
history.
I personally think D'Antoni's a good coach, but he didn't have anything to work with in LA.
I don't think he wanted, as much as people didn't want him there, I don't think he wanted to be there at all. Like what does he have going for him?
Here's the thing though. If I'm Mike D'Antoni, the Lakers are coming into this offseason. They signed everyone to 1-year contracts. So they have the option to release all of their players and then have quite a bit of money coming into this free agency. And so they could assemble a really good team for next year. And Mike D'Antoni he had the option. He could have stayed and kind of coached this new team.
I don't think his system would have worked, though. I think his system is really defined, and it's too bad that he didn't have any players to work with. I mean, he had players in that first year that he couldn't get to mesh. He had Dwight Howard and Gasol and Kobe, but it's rough for D'Antoni. Hopefully this isn't the last we see of him, because he was a tremendous coach in Phoenix. And the early reports are obviously that John Calipari and Kevin Ollie are two of the Lakers' main interests at this time.
Well, yeah,
but I don't think either of those are going to happen.
Kevin Ollie is coming off a national championship.
Right off a national
Calipari was in the national championship.
But the Lakers they're still going to think that they can get him regardless, just because they're the
Lakers think they can get anyone.
Yes.
I don't see them leaving.
No.
I think they're going to have to go for a former NBA coach who's not. I don't think they're going to be able to bring anyone up from college. At least not someone as good as John Calipari.
I know, and
John Calipari's skill is recruiting. Yeah, and he's more of a recruiter than he is necessarily a tremendous coach.
He literally gets, like, year after year after year has,
tremendous talent to work with.
The best, freshman classes coming in. His freshmen are awesome, so I don't know why you would. And that's year after year after year. Always has some of the best, if not the best, players on the squad.
But it definitely is tough managing all those incoming freshmen who in high school they were just the top of their state.
But he does it year after year after year after year.
He tried the NBA
freshmen in the lottery.
He tried the NBA like a decade ago, and it didn't work out for him. So we'll see where the Lakers go with that. A few other coaches that I think a few of us can agree on that may be on the hot seat if their team loses this first round. I'm going to run through the list. Scott Brooks, obviously the OKC Thunder, he's probably the top of the list at this point. Frank Vogel, some may argue. Mark Jackson of the Golden State Warriors, and also Kevin McHale of the Houston Rockets. Who do you guys think is the biggest, is on the hot seat, the highest right now, I guess?
I'd say Frank Vogel.
I'm going to go with Scott Brooks.
I'm going to go with Scott Brooks too.
And it's clear, Frank Vogel, he's just not getting the most out of his players, but I think Scott Brooks
doesn't know how to use his players.
It's clear that he's just getting out-coached in this series. It's not just the players, it's just the tactical strategies, and he's just completely getting out-coached.
And we saw, in the last couple seconds of their last game when they're down by 1, and Kevin Durant comes out of a timeout and shoots a super deep three-pointer only being down by 1.
That was the play call. That was he gave Durant the option to
Scott Brooks said, I'm going to
shoot it or dribble. That's not what you do as a coach.
Do what he wants. Which, KD's an all-star, but I think in that situation, Scott Brooks, needs to have more leadership in that role. It needs to be smarter and say, I've watched this game from here as everything's progressed. I've seen what they've been doing. I've seen what we've been doing. I'm going to draw up a play, and you guys are going to follow it.
Mm-hmm. I think Scott Brooks is probably on the way out. I think it's safe to say if the Thunder lose this first round series that Scott Brooks should be gone.
And it's sad to see because he won Coach of the Year a couple years back, and he was
2010.
That has a lot to do with the talent on his team.
And they came from kind of down here to up here, and he's not. The thing is, he's not continuing the trend. They've come up here and they've kind of stalled out. They can't get up to that.
Yeah, I mean, they're a team that has the potential to win an NBA championship.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously. And they went there and they lost in 5 games. Mm-hmm. They lost in the Western Conference semis last year.
Yeah.
They're just not getting to that. They're not getting to the top, and they have the players to do so. He's just not taking them there.
Mm-hmm. That's going to wrap it up for our first segment in the NBA. We're going to take it to a quick commercial, and we'll be right back with our second.
What if there was a place where mind, individuality, and celebration?
With a good education.
My time respected.
A place I don't feel lost in the crowd. where I get the attention that I need
and deserve. With programs designed for us, all along.
What if this place is right here? Right here. Right here. Wasatch High School.
Introduce it, Dave.
All right, welcome back. Here we're going to have a presentation of the Heat fans now that the playoffs have started. There they are. The playoffs have arrived, and suddenly we have more Heat fans.
Okay, so here's our rundown, I guess, of what's going on for the playoffs so far. Miami obviously swept Charlotte pretty easily. Yep. Thanks to Al Jefferson with his plantar fasciitis or whatever you pronounce within his foot. That was rough. Washington also took care of Chicago pretty easily, which was surprising. Surprising, but Tanner called it, I guess.
I wasn't surprised.
Okay.
To be honest, I wasn't. But
Atlanta is currently up 3-2 on Indiana, and I think I can all say that's a surprise.
Yeah.
Regardless of how bad Atlanta did play, or how bad Indiana was playing.
I mean,
they were up by 30.
Game 5, I mean, the Pacers got home court advantage back. They evened the series. They played 2 out of the last 3 games at home, and they have a chance to start over essentially, and they get blown out.
Yeah, they were up. The Hawks were up by 30. Okay, Roy Hibbert in the series is averaging the same stats as Pero Ontic, the starting center of the Hawks. Roy Hibbert was an all-star this year.
Yeah, he was an all-star.
What? He's scoring 4 points a game and having 3 rebounds a game, shooting 30% as an all-star center.
It doesn't make sense.
So
how big is he
it's simple. He's
all the minutes that he plays,
it's pretty.
And all the rebounds that he doesn't grab.
He is 7-2. We have a moment of silence for Roy Hibbert's drop off. That is enough. It's shocking.
Toronto and Brooklyn is turning out to be a really good series.
Yeah, it's probably one of the. Last night, Toronto had a huge lead going into the fourth quarter, and then ISO Joe Johnson scores 26 points in the second half. They bring it down. They tie the game on a Joe Johnson 3. Then with 2 minutes left, Kyle Lowry's running around in the backcourt, and it's about to be an 8-second call, and he falls down and gets a foul called, which pretty clearly looked like a flop to me. Mm-hmm. Goes and gets 2 free throws. Okay, the Heat fan will defend the flops. There's 2 free throws for Kyle Lowry, and then Kyle Lowry also hits another 3 at the end of the game. That leads to the Raptors win after the storming comeback by the Nets, which was really impressive, but I think the Nets just ran out of steam.
Yeah.
And but I think that series going back to Brooklyn will maybe rejuvenate them a little bit. Toronto's crowd's been the best of the playoffs by far. I think
I'm
Toronto.
definitely calling a Game 7 in this series.
Yeah.
And if it comes down to a Game 7, Brooklyn is the more experienced team here. Obviously, but the Raptors do have home court advantage.
Yep.
So it'll be really interesting to see what happens.
I think it's going to come down to whether KG can actually come out of his shell and dominate Jonas Valanciunas like he's supposed to, because he has been kind of a missing piece for the Nets in this series. Mm-hmm. Paul Pierce and Joe Johnson, though, have been spectacular, and so Terrence Ross has struggled a little bit. DeRozan's had a few really good games. Kyle Lowry's been
amazing.
He's played really well.
He's played like the All-Star he was deserving of. Instead of Roy Hibbert.
We won't say anymore.
San Antonio Dallas has also been an exciting series. Vince Carter with his game in Game 5. Something about the Spurs and corner threes. I don't know what goes on there, but San Antonio looked to kind of grasp that series back last night with a 3-2 lead.
They got the 3-2 lead, and the crazy thing is Dallas had a chance to take a 3-1 lead. They were right there.
Right there.
But just like that, they lost the game. Now San Antonio has the lead, or a 3-2 lead.
And this scare is probably really good for San Antonio. I think just in the first round, they know they're most likely they're basically the best team coming out of the West, and they're not really afraid of anybody.
They're gonna get out of this series.
Yeah, I
don't see Dallas beating
props to Dallas. This just shows how dang deep that the West is every single year. Dallas at 3-2 with the San Antonio Spurs.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Dirk Nowitzki and Monte Ellis, and they're an 8 seed. And then out east we've got the best player is Paul Millsap.
And
Let's
Al
not
Jefferson.
talk about that East.
And Al Jefferson and whatever.
Al Jeff, dude.
It's making
Jazz former players.
He'd have an even easier road every single year that they have to make it to the finals. Memphis OKC, probably the most intriguing series. 4 overtime games.
4 straight. Overtime games.
What can we say about how bad the Thunder have been?
I don't know.
Is something wrong with that?
What about how good Memphis is?
Yeah, you have to give props to Memphis.
Definitely.
Memphis would have been a 4 seed if Marc Gasol wouldn't have gone out probably.
Yeah.
During the middle of the season.
I think they're a little bit underseeded, but
yes.
It has been painful to watch the Thunder in this series.
How bad Durant Brooke has been. Durant Brooke combined is just a total has been egregious.
Westbrook, like, you look at the stats, you think Westbrook played a great game in Game 5. 30 points, a triple-double. No, he missed 20 field goals.
10 of 31 shots.
By himself, he missed 20 field goals.
Okay. Well, you look at the overtime, too, and in the 4 overtimes, Westbrook is 0-14 with 1 point, and Durant is 7-14 with 22 points. You can't really defend the MVP at this point because in the regulation time, he's been awful. And Tony Allen's just straight up flustered him. But also, if you look at Game 5, Durant hits the 3 to take the lead for the first time for the Thunder, and you go up 79-78. And that's with about 6 minutes left. Durant doesn't take another shot until 30 seconds left, and that's a contested 3 on the fast break, which was a terrible shot.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
But the thing was, Scott Brooks relegated Durant to the decoy, to just sit in the corner and let Reggie Jackson and Russell Westbrook isolate.
Yes, that's a bad.
You have
that's a bad
you have an
coaching
MVP
move.
on you. He's going to win the MVP this year.
Yes.
And you have the MVP on your hands, and you're putting him in the corner.
Well,
there's times where that would make sense, you know.
But not when Westbrook's shooting the way Westbrook's
having that
shooting.
high esteemed a player, using him, in that role. I mean, but that's not the time to do it.
Well, down the stretch, you want the ball in KD's hands.
Yeah.
I mean, he's either going to get fouled or he's going to get double teamed.
He's
going to score the ball.
He's proven that he can make stuff happen.
Yeah.
He's going to get the most attention. So if you can get the ball in his hands, things are going to happen. People are going to double team. He's going to find an open man.
We've seen it with LeBron.
It's
the same thing. They either look for that opportunity to score, or they got 4 other wide open players.
This series has just showed me how incredible LeBron James really is, and how lucky we are to have him in the league this year. Because LeBron James we've never really seen him have a series like that. Stop.
He's crying.
Stop, because
You never said anything that
But LeBron James would never have a series like this. He obviously hasn't had to really have a 7-game series with Memphis yet.
No.
And I think that would be a nightmare for anybody. But LeBron James is special.
But then I think this series also shows us how, Memphis has been the better team, I think, in this series.
Well, and the ball movement was what got the Thunder, is what made the Thunder have that run. And then all of a sudden it sticks to guys like Durant and Westbrook. And
exactly.
It's like you got Ibaka on your team, one of the best mid-range shooters.
Ibaka is the most consistent player on the Thunder right now.
Yes.
And it may be just because he gets the open shots, when he shoots the ball when it's open. So, I mean, but he's making his shots, so they may need to go to him.
All right, well, should we just fly through these last ones real
Clippers,
quick?
Golden State's 3-2. It's too bad for the Clippers
State?
with 3-2. With the Sterling thing, that's hopefully they can.
That's kind of
I'm
hindered
calling
their
another
series.
Game 7 series.
I think so.
I think the Warriors will win Game 6.
I think the Clippers.
I think the Warriors will win Game 7.
Portland, Houston.
Right. Portland, Houston's been probably the second most exciting series.
Portland's been playing really well.
I think Portland's going to close it out at home. Game
I think
6.
LaMarcus Aldridge will be the X factor, and if they can finish out this series,
he's been the MVP of the playoffs so far. Mm-hmm. OKC, Memphis tonight, Indiana, Atlanta tonight, Clippers, Warriors tonight.
3 potential closeout games.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we'll see how those play out. Make sure you get out and watch them, and that is all we have for your NBA playoffs.
Thanks for tuning in.
Sure.
All around the world. To the beach, y'all. Let's go. All around the world. Y'all know this is so that.
Michael against Russell, 12 seconds. 11, 10. Jordan a drive, hangs, fires, scores! He scores! The Bulls lead 87-86. Oh my goodness. Michael against Russell, 12 seconds. 11.
I guess in full action with Purdy not even on the desk yet, but we're talking about the NFL draft here. We got Mitch's excellent mock draft for us. The second half of it, we'll finish it up, so we'll take it to Mitch. We'll take it to Mitch. We gonna take it to Mitch. That's where we're going.
Please take it. Okay.
If it's going to Mitch, that'd be good. There we go.
Okay. Took a little longer than we needed, but I did top 10 picks last show, and so I'm just going to finish up the remaining 22 picks. We're going to start here, the number 11 Tennessee Titans. They will pick Justin Gilbert. He's a quarterback out of Oklahoma State. He's just what they need to help boost their defense to stop some of those reigning powerhouses named the Colts in their division. So we'll move next to the New York Giants. They are going to go with a defensive player as well, C.J. Mosley. So C.J. Mosley is out of Alabama. This guy is one question mark that I do have in the draft because Alabama linebackers haven't done that well over the past few years. So we'll see if he'll be able to change that for the New York Giants. At the next pick at 13, we have St. Louis Rams. They're going to go with a free safety out of Louisville, Calvin Pryor. He, in my opinion, is the second best safety in this draft, and I think the St. Louis Rams would be smart to pick him here, help boost their defense just a little bit. Sticking with the defensive theme, the Bears are going to go with the best defensive tackle in the draft named Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's out of Pittsburgh. He's a big guy to put right in the middle of your defense, and he definitely is somebody that you want, that the Bears need to help win their division. Coming down to the Steelers definitely need a lot of help on their defensive side. Their defense hasn't been the steel curtain that it once was. So they're going to pick the Darqueze Dennard out of Michigan State. This is my favorite cornerback in the draft. I think he's a ball hawk, he's a hard hitter, and he'll be exactly what the Steelers need in this draft. So we're going to move on to next pick. We got Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys are going to take Anthony Barr out of UCLA. This guy is a great pass rusher out of UCLA. So this is definitely who they need to replace the absence of DeMarcus Ware. Moving on to the Baltimore Ravens. They have a lot of great tackles, or they've always had great tackles, so they're going to pick another one in this draft named Taylor Lewin out of Michigan. He's definitely the right pick for them, and they need that offensive line to protect Joe Flacco. So moving on to the Jets. They just acquired Michael Vick, and they have Geno Smith, so there's going to be a battle there, but it doesn't matter who the quarterback is if you can't throw to someone. So they're going to go with Odell Beckham. He's a wide receiver out of LSU. He's a big guy, and he'll be able to help out their receiving core a lot. The Miami Dolphins are going to go with a tackle as well. They need a lot of help, but I definitely think that starting with the line will be the right pick for them, going with Zach Martin. Zach Martin's going to be a great offensive tackle in this draft. He's one of the best, and I think he'll fit well into the Miami offense. Okay, so going to the Arizona Cardinals. They are going to pick defensive end Coney Ealy out of Missouri. This guy, he's kind of had some attention taken away from him where he has Michael Sam, first openly gay college player to come out, but this guy is the guy that we should have been watching. This guy's got the instinct, and he'll be a great pass rusher for the Cardinals. All right, so if we move on to the Packers, this is where Zach Purdy might want to pay attention because this is the team that he roots for. They're going to pick this guy. I had never heard of him until I started researching who I wanted for the draft. This is tight end, and he's out of Washington. And I'm not even going to attempt to say his name because that's a really long name. But he'll be a great pick, and he'll add just another weapon for Aaron Rodgers, who we all know is so dangerous. Okay, now moving to my team, we got the Eagles. Eagles just lost Deshaun Jackson. They need somebody to replace him, so they're going to go with some size and pick Kelvin Benjamin out of Florida State. You may remember him, but he caught the winning touchdown in the national championship game. He's a big guy, great hands, and he'll fill in well for Deshaun Jackson. Kansas City Chiefs as well are going to pick a wide receiver, but they're going to pick Brandon Cooks out of Oregon State. They need somebody for Alex Smith to throw to. That's something that's for sure. They had a great team, and he'll only help build upon that. Moving to the Bengals, their offense is incredible. They didn't need any help there, but their defense got torn apart last season, so they're going to go with Brandon Roby out of Ohio State. Brandon Roby is great cornerback, great ball skills. He'll be a great addition to their defense if they want to look to win their division. Moving to the San Diego Chargers, who, in my opinion, last year had the best pick in the draft with Keenan Allen, who was a great wide receiver. They're going to go to the other side of the ball and pick Kyle Fuller, a cornerback out of Virginia Tech. This guy has a lot of it. He's really great, and he'll help their defense out a lot, go on opposite side of Eric Weddle. So he'll definitely help out their defense, and they'll need it. So if we move to our next pick, Cleveland Browns have their second pick in this draft, and they're going to go with a quarterback this time, and they're going to pick Teddy Bridgewater. This is my favorite quarterback in the draft. His draft stock dropped a little bit after the Combine and Pro Day. He wasn't as successful as he had hoped, but he'll help the Browns out because they definitely need a quarterback. All right, for the New Orleans Saints, they're going to pick a defensive end out of Auburn named Dee Ford. Their defense struggled last year, and I think it was the downfall of their playoff hopes. So they need a pass rusher to help get out those Russell Wilsons and Colin Kaepernicks to make sure that they're contained. And so Dee Ford will be a great pick here. Carolina Panthers just lost their Pro Bowl wide receiver, Steve Smith. So just like many other teams, they need to replace him. So here they're going to draft the USC wide receiver, Marquise Lee. Marquise Lee has a little bit of a question mark coming off some injuries, and he's had it in high school and college. He's been a little injury prone, but if he could turn out to be the best wide receiver in this draft because he has the size and the speed. So we'll see how he turns out when he gets drafted by Carolina. So moving on to the New England Patriots. The Patriots are going to draft Louis Nix. Louis Nix is out of Notre Dame. He's a nose tackle. So this is a big guy, big run stopper, and it's somebody that they desperately need to improve their defense, which has always been a weak point for the Patriots. Going on to San Francisco, Aldon Smith getting himself in some trouble, so definitely needs to help get out of trouble. So they're going to draft Ryan Shazier out of Ohio State. He'll be a great pick for them, and he'll do a lot great on their defense. Moving to our last two picks, we have Denver and Seattle, the Super Bowl matchup. So Denver got ripped apart on their defense, which was a surprise. So they're going to go with Jason Barrett, cornerback out of TCU. And then Seattle is going to draft who is what someone will talk about in just a second, is Xavier Su'a-Filo, who's an offensive guard out of UCLA. So I'll take it back to you guys to talk about some of this.
All right, back
All right.
to us.
Thank you, Mitch. That was really good. I do like that Browns pick at 27 a lot for Teddy Bridgewater because Teddy Bridgewater does have the talent. He just needs to. The Browns don't really have that much talent either, but they do need a quarterback.
Yeah.
And so
I think he'll get out there and kind of like as all rookies do. It's a little shaky at first, getting used to it. I think after about a year or two, he could really step it up for the Browns, which they need. So
they just need some excitement in
they
Cleveland, don't they?
When you think of the Browns, you think of like a funeral. It's usually the thing I think of.
Well, and the Browns have 2 picks, and so do the Rams have 2 picks. So maybe we can see those teams.
They might as well get a quarterback.
Well, and also the Cardinals and the Dolphins both on cusps of making the playoffs last year. I think this draft is really important for them if they want to make that next step into the playoff.
Of course.
Run through real quick: Kyle Van Noy, Yanni Unga, Cody Hoffman. I like Daniel Sorensen a lot as a special teams guy in the NFL too, from BYU.
I think he'll be very good.
Trevor Riley.
We also got Jake John
Murphy.
Duncan coming out of Dixie State. Nobody really knows about him, but he's one of the best tight ends.
Yep.
He's a very good
Xavier Su'a-Filo.
So we'll see how the locals do in this upcoming draft.
Yeah, well, We'll see if we can get some
Go Team
Utah football in the NFL.
That's right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in today.
And say hello to Jameis Winston and his shoplifting crab legs.